We're on camera.
Should be. Boom.
There we go.
Good morning, everybody, and Victory Monday. Not.
We haven't felt like this in a while, Terry. This is weird.
Yeah, I mean, when you go 3 months without losing, it's like. But I got a big question for you today.
Oh,
Lions lose to the Buffalo Bills 48-42. Was it an ass kicking?
Yes.
It's a one-score game, but it seemed like the Lions had no shot at winning that game at any point.
From the start.
Right.
That first drive, 3-and-out punt, it was ugly. Goff got sacked. They had no rhythm on the offense. Okay, that's fine. You have to punt to them. They go down 7-0. Then it happens again. You spot the Buffalo Bills 14 points. They're a Super Bowl contender with an MVP. Well, I'll start and say contender right now. We'll get into that. But you spotted them 14 points, and realistically, the game was probably over.
I felt it was over in the first quarter. I felt
so?
The Buffalo Bills landed a first-round knockout.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to hear a lot about Josh Allen, MVP candidate. We're going to hear a lot about the Lions defense. We're going to hear a lot about the Lions now can't contend for a Super Bowl. But yesterday, there was two disturbing things to me early on that they told me this is not going to be the Lions' day. One, the offensive line, which I haven't seen much, got manhandled.
They did.
Right.
That was the most surprising thing to me too, Terry.
Mm-hmm. We didn't see Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery gashing people. And then the second thing is we saw the Lions' defensive line get gashed. Even with all the injuries the Lions have had, teams have not been able to run on them consistently. The Bills was like, they shoved it down their throats.
It happened, Terry. James Cook, 14 attempts for 105 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first time they've allowed a single rusher, a running back, specifically a running back, to rush for over 100 yards since they let two guys do it against Carolina on Christmas Eve 2022.
Yeah.
And this was the difference. And it wasn't just James Cook. It was Josh Allen had 11 for 68 and 2 touchdowns. Ray Davis, 7 for 15. Ty Johnson, who was an animal receiving the ball, he had 2 for 9. So they let the Bills rush all over them.
Right. You know what Josh Allen was yesterday?
What?
He was Michael Jordan and Steph Curry clowning the Pistons. I mean, he was. That's how good he was.
I knew he was good. I don't know if you got to see it against your team that you think is the best in the NFL. You think they're peerless, and Josh Allen made them look like a JV team. Do you remember Danny Almonte, the pitcher for New York in the Little League World Series?
He was too old.
He was 16 playing with 12-year-olds.
Right.
Josh Allen was Danny Almonte yesterday.
Yeah. You very rarely see performances like that, and the way he runs is great, but the passes, I mean, he was like dropping them. He was like, here. It was almost like he was just saying, here's the ball.
Just dropping it in the bucket. Right. Dimes. Everywhere. On the run, across his body. How many throws are you going to make across your body?
That's the throw they tell you don't make.
Yes.
Don't try it. And he's like doing it consistently.
And he's not turning the ball over either. I know we're glazing Josh Allen right now. He deserves it, by the way. He was unstoppable. What he showed me in the air with his arm, it's special. He was so accurate on the run, again, across his body. The throws you're not supposed to make, he made look easy. Consistently. On third down. On fourth down. The Lions had no chance. They had no chance. There were no adjustments made on defense. We'll get into the injuries, but you got to mix it up on defense when you have a weapon like that in Josh Allen and the Bills' offense that they really could do whatever they wanted with the Lions.
Yeah, I think Aaron Glenn is doing the stick with the girl that you brought to the dance.
Yeah,
that's what they do, and they're not going to change.
They just played man-to-man all game long.
Mm-hmm. That's what they do. I think sometimes they should back off the man-to-man when they get a big lead, because you could start giving up chunk plays and but sometimes it's not bad to be a little bit conservative, especially if you're up 3 scores or something like that. But this is who he is. This is who he's going to remain as. I would like to see some mixes and coverages, but that's not why they lost.
Right.
They lost when the offensive line and defensive line both got manhandled, because I have not seen running backs get a lot of chunk plays against the Lions this season.
Yeah.
Saw it yesterday. And then Gibbs and Montgomery, when we always talk about how dominant they are and who's going to be the guy this week, neither one was the guy.
Neither one.
They couldn't get anything going.
I have a coincidence I want to ask you about those two, about the running game. But we got to welcome everybody watching on YouTube,
Hello.
on woodwardsports.com, on X, and on Facebook. What do we got about? We got almost 150 at the moment. We're just starting to heat up. Shout out to Greg Allspot first in the chat. Doughboy Steve. Greg Open said, no AG bashing today. Said good morning. I don't know if the performance is worth a bash. But
The bash isn't the word, but you can scrutinize.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How about that?
I'm in with that. Mr. Bebop, Blue, no Carlton, no McNeil, not going 3-0. 5 seed, road loss at the Bucks. Lions are toast. IT Hips. My dog IT Hips in the chat. Good morning. In the headline.
Are we going to go through this again?
We're going through it again.
Every time the Lions lose, that's the end of the ball game.
He says the headline should be that the Lions season is over.
Okay, can I say something? That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. What's the Lions' record after a loss?
After a loss? Mm-hmm. Undefeated.
Right. The last 2 years haven't lost. But when you hear people talk, you think there's no shot of them winning any of those games.
Yeah. Yeah. Lucian Stanka said it's a learning game for the defense and for the run game. You got to take something away. I don't believe in moral victories, but you can take something away from this. Let's be real. This game, like you said it yesterday, it might have been the most interesting game of the weekend, whether you want that or the Steelers and the Eagles. Wasn't the most important game.
Yeah, it's the least important game in December.
Yeah. Because it doesn't affect the Lions. The loss alone, they're still in it.
Well, they still have the number 1 seed.
Exactly.
So even though they're tied with Philly and they may be tied with Minnesota after tonight, I think the elite teams are going to be in the AFC. Kansas City, even though they struggle, but they win, and then Buffalo, who was magnificent yesterday. And Buffalo even missed some practices last week. They had to not practice because of the snow.
But they looked like the prepared team yesterday. They looked like the Lions have made other teams look this season, good and bad teams. Even when they play good teams, they've just looked like they've always had that extra edge. They've dominated the trenches. They were able to get their run game going and let Jared Goff just be accurate.
And I think they're a little bit more pissed off than the Lions.
It felt like
they're coming off that loss to the Rams, which they didn't like. They gave up a bunch of points in that one. They lost a game that they felt that they should have won, but they weren't really in that game. So
flip the script.
I think they made adjustments, and the thing that we thought was going to happen was their front is a little bit small, and that at some point the Lions would wear them down. But once again, what is the common denominator in the Lions' loss to the Bills and the Bucks?
It's a number over 50.
Yeah, Jared Goff passing more than 50 times.
And it's wild to think, and I agree with you. It's not the formula for victory. You can't blame Jared Goff for yesterday, but you still got to understand that if they don't run the ball, because he's throwing so many passes, it means that balance is out of whack. They're not controlling the time of possession. It didn't end up too much of a margin, the time of possession between the Bills and the Lions, but they were in control all game. Jared Goff had to throw to keep them in it. And you don't want that. You want him throwing. And you want the run game and the pass game to be so balanced that they're just controlling the clock for the entire game, really.
Against a team like the Bills, here's what you want. You want more balance. You want more running early in the game. You don't want to be down 14-0. You want to be able to limit possessions.
Yes.
And the Lions were not able to do that.
And there was a key moment with about 12 minutes in the fourth quarter that involves, trying to steal possessions, trying to limit the possessions that the Bills had. But, man, T-Foss, if I told you there were 2 games this year, if I read you this stat line, 38 for 56 for Jared Goff, 494, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a 118.9 QB rating. Another game where he was 15 of 30, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a 59.7 rating. Which game do you think the Lions would have won?
The first one,
of course.
Easily.
Of course, and they didn't. That was the game they lost. What a season. I don't know how to explain something like that. Because he put an MVP-type performance, Jared Goff, it didn't lead to a victory.
No. And if they had won, and let's say the Lions were in control of that game, you take those stats. Here's what we're talking today. Jared Goff, front runner, the MVP.
Easy.
But he lost. That's why, the MVP conversation usually goes to the team that's winning, and that makes sense. And the first thing an MVP winner does is thank their teammates, because they know if their teammates were no good, they would be no good. If their teammates didn't find a way to win, they wouldn't win that trophy. So,
and I told you at the end of the show, we got into it just a little bit. I said Lamar's out of the MVP race. Jared Goff had this game. Lamar had himself a special game. There's justification for Lamar to jump over Goff again. Like, with a 5-touchdown game, it doesn't make sense. But what we did know for sure, the front runner's Josh Allen. What he's doing is special.
Right.
Special.
And Jared Goff had an MVP-like game, but you have to drop him because they lost. Winning and losing is so important.
And that
and they were never really in the game.
Yeah. That uniquely to Jared Goff is one of the more important. Like QB wins, whether you believe in it or not. Like Jared Goff needed that narrative with this line. He needed as many wins as possible. He needed to go 15-2, like you said yesterday.
Can I speak to our people out there? Please do not panic. NFL teams lose games. NFL teams get blown out. This team is 12-2. And the thing that we do too much is we don't harp as much on the 12 wins as we do the 2 losses. And, the Lions are still in great shape. They have to go on the road twice, Chicago and San Francisco. Neither of those teams are as good as Buffalo.
No, not even close.
Right. And then you finish up at Minnesota. And Minnesota could be winner take all.
It's looking like it's going to come down to something week 18.
Yep.
It's going to come down to something week 18. Let me read you. There's about 4 or 5 comments in a row that you need to see that speak to, I think, a chunk of the people you're talking to, Terry. One Funky Lions fan says, the Bills picked on the backup linebackers all game. Lions fans are pathetic with the sky is falling narrative. Jason Binder says, those people are not true Lions fans. Next comment, John Henry, sky isn't falling, but we finally see these injuries catching up with us. Attack linebackers, and after Aleem went out, now teams will pound the rock. Real quick, Terry, IT Hips follows up. The season is over, and anybody who says otherwise is either ignorant or just plain dumb. And last one for you.
Okay, I'm ignorant and dumb. It's not over. How is it over? Tell me.
It's not at all.
Well, both of us are ignorant and dumb.
IT Hips, I need more. I see actually in capital letters he's still going. And this is my guy, IT Hips. I disagree with you here.
Hippie dude, tell us why.
Yeah. I think what I'm seeing a consensus in the chat for those against, and I don't want to speak for IT Hips, please follow up, but I think they're seeing the Lee McNeil injury, the Carlton Davis injury is like the final nail in the coffin of injuries are not only catching up to the Lions now, they're out for the season, so it is going to be the reason they can't take this next step forward. They can't win a Super Bowl.
So that means you're going to lose 2 or 3 games down the stretch?
It's kind of what it sounds like.
Does it mean they're going to be a first-round knockout in the playoffs?
That's what people are saying.
Okay. Good luck with that.
I think those are 2 of the biggest losses you could have, especially with the injuries that have already happened, like Aleem and Carlton Davis. We're talking about your best interior player and your best man cover corner in a defense that AG wants to play.
Well, here's the other thing that could help that is the offense, and this may sound a little bit silly, but the offense needs to be better. You got down 14-0. You did not pick up a first down in your first 2 possessions, and then you're playing catch-up the rest of the way. That is a recipe for disaster in the National Football League. But I'm going to, I want to hit back on 2 things.
Yeah.
One, if someone said you're not true Lions fans if you're dogging the team. Okay, that is a bullshit take, and I'll tell you why. Everybody has a different way in which they treat a team. Just because you are critical of a team doesn't mean you don't love the team. You want it to be better. You have a different view. You're just as passionate a fan, probably more passionate a fan than the person that just says everything is great. Nothing to see here. So I don't agree with that. The second thing is, to say that the Lions season is done at 12-2 is the most asinine thing I've heard in a while. We were told when Hutch went down, the season was done. Then they rip off 7 more wins in a row. We were told 2 weeks ago when Anzalone and Rodrigo and other people went down, the season was over. This team, what it does is it picks itself up, it repairs itself, and now it's going to have a little bit lesser competition. The Bears don't scare anybody. The Niners don't scare anybody.
No way.
And even though Minnesota is tied with them, I'm not afraid of the Minnesota Vikings. So they can win these next 3 games, be in the playoffs with a 1 seed, and then nobody wants to come to Ford Field and play these dudes.
That's the key. Arf said we played a bad game against a top team, but we're still in it. Randall Small said, I'm actually glad we lost. We needed a slap in the face. We needed a loss before the playoffs for a slap in the face. And then Dante151, a $5 super chat. Dante, thank you. If injuries are catching up to the Lions, then WTF did the Lions been doing these past multiple weeks when Hutchinson went down against the Cowboys? They've been winning. So,
but you know what happened? You ran up against an elite quarterback, you ran up against an elite offense, and you ran up against a team that had got their asses kicked against the Rams and were pissed.
They were more pissed off than the Lions.
Right. So maybe the Lions needed that slap in the face. Hey, anybody can beat you, and maybe they lost a little bit of that. But I hear people say, after wins, there's momentum. I don't believe in momentum. And in fact, losses can be a better elixir than wins.
That's true.
Because it's like, oh, we are vulnerable. So you make adjustments. I'm sure the coaches are making adjustments as we speak. They got to go on the road. I'm sure they'll practice outside this week because you got to go to Soldier Field.
Yeah.
And do the Bears scare you?
No. They're going to play you tough. You can't look past them.
Sure. It's going to be a tough game.
It's going to be a tough game, but they should not scare you. You have to go win.
Do the Niners scare you?
No, not at all.
Right. The next scary game I see is potentially in the first round against the LA Rams.
The key is to not have that first round game.
Right.
Go get yourself a bye to get as healthy as possible. How bad did they miss Anzalone and Rodrigo last night?
Big time.
Big time. Not that Josh Allen won't do what he does anyway, but 2 linebackers like that, both in coverage, since give credit to the Buffalo Bills offense. They were doing what Detroit normally does to teams and getting matchups with going in motion pre-snap, getting their running backs on linebackers, and Quan Alexander couldn't cover them yesterday. Their linebackers couldn't cover them, and they weren't making the tackles when Josh Allen escaped.
Right.
It is what it is. But you said the Bills came pissed off. The Lions weren't ready. Dan Campbell took some credit after the game, and I know you heard some things from an unreliable source.
Right.
What do you take of Dan Campbell's credit taking after the game, both for the game and
to me, that
kick?
rings hollow to me because that's what all coaches do. Oh, it was on me. I didn't have him prepared, blah, blah, blah. He's a grown man. I don't buy the I didn't have my guys prepared baloney. One team was more motivated, and I don't care what Dan Campbell did during the week. I don't think they're going to be able to match Buffalo's intensity.
I don't mind him taking credit, though. I mean, it's not one person. It's not one coach. It's not just him, but he is the leader of that team, and that's what he does. That's what you want your head coach to do. You want your quarterback to do. It's what we rip on Zach Wilson and the Jets last year for going and blaming everybody else. Like, at least he's doing that, and honestly, it kind of is on him. Like Buffalo did show up ready to play. They kind of bullied the Lions. And when you look at the Lions' best players, their offensive line, St. Brown, you look at the box score, he had a great game. I bet you St. Brown doesn't think he had a great game. There were some very big drops, a huge fumble. Those were game changers. St. Brown is not
Mr.
happy
Jugs
today.
there, who doesn't drop balls.
Yeah. I would hate to be the Jugs machine today. You're getting a lot of work.
Yeah, was it 202?
Yeah, multiply that by 10. Yeah, it's going to be an ugly one. So Dan Campbell took credit. Do you think – I'm just going to hit you right with it. Do you think his onside kick call with 12 minutes in the fourth quarter, do you agree with it? And B, do you think it cost them the game?
Did not cost them the game, but it was reckless. Onside kicks don't work anymore. The rules have changed. You don't have the element of surprise. You have to announce you're going to do an onside kick, and then you can't stack one side of the field. You have to wait until the ball. It's just, if it had been a fake punt, I would have been okay with it. If it was a situation where it was 4th and 5, I would have been okay with it. But the onside kick with 12 minutes, down 10, no.
Yeah. Chat, let me hear your opinions on it. I want to read them off because I since the game ended, I've heard varying opinions from everybody in the sports world, every different type of Lions fans. I might get ripped for saying this. I don't mind it at all. I hate the new onside kick rule, and that's where you can convince me not to do it. But at that point in the game, not even considering that your defense couldn't stop them, although that is the reason, you got to try to steal a possession. It was a 2-possession game. It was 10 points. You want to try to make it a 1-possession game. Get it to a 7-point game or a 4-point or a 3-point game. I know it extends to a 3-possession game if they score there, but you're knowing they're moving the ball on the Lions defense all you want. You just want the ball back as quickly as you can. So even the disaster that people are calling Matt Collins receiving the onside kick and taking it all the way down, they almost wanted him to get in the end zone. You just want all of that to transpire as quick as possible so you get the ball back.
My problem is you only have a 5 or 6% chance of recovering the onside kick.
Yeah.
That's like looking for the needle in the haystack.
It is. But the downside
you know
is,
what? You got a better shot at hitting the Hail Mary than you do recovering an onside kick. Think about how ridiculous that is.
It's kind of sad. But you still have to do whatever you can to get the ball back, or just shorten the amount of time that they have the ball. And I haven't heard this rebuttal yet, but if you said, all right, just kick it deep, and you got to get a pick six or an interception in general just to get the ball back. Maybe, with a bigger field they got to throw, but to me it's just you want the ball back as quickly as possible. Even if they score, Jared Goff in that offense, they're going to go down and score 2. So it's finding some way to just keep flipping that game. It didn't work. And actually my biggest problem is, if that's your strategy, do it again the next time. Why are you not taking that 5 to 6% chance with 8 minutes to go? Because they got the ball right back.
Because you realize it's not happening. That's why. So you just back down off of it. It's like, okay, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be chesty. I think I can do this. And then you saw, you had no shot at it. The last onside kick with 12 seconds left, that was your best shot right there.
That's too little, too late.
Yeah, but I know it was a big fight in the pile. I'm sure there's people kicking and scratching and farting and doing whatever they could to get that ball.
Pinching, elbowing. It was ugly. If you're going to be chesty, Dan Campbell said last week when people were criticizing the fourth downs, like, there are some coaches, I forget the exact comment, but coaches are scared to do it. They're scared to get fired. all right, if you're going to say that stuff, and if you believe that at 12 minutes it's worth shrinking the game, getting the ball back as quick as possible, do it with 8 minutes. Or don't do it at all.
Don't do it at all. But, even the 8-minute thing, I still say no, because then you realize the foolishness of your mistake. So why do it again?
Donovan Strong in the chat. Your defense couldn't stop Allen. They would have scored and taken more time off the clock anyway. WeezyD313 in the chat says, he can't steal a possession with a bunch of just the guys. The onside kick, this is J19, Shugs89. That onside kick was gutsy, but it's how Dan Campbell coaches, and we are 12-2 because of it. The onside kick rule stinks. He finishes up.
No, it does. It needs to be changed. It needs to be. Even if you don't change any of the rules, I still want to have the element of surprise. I don't want you to have to announce, okay, we're going to do an onside kick. Where everybody's ready for this. You have to implement that back into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've seen some great games where you thought teams were out of it, dead, buried, folded, and stimulated.
Yeah, stimulated.
But
erect.
It's like, oh, here's a surprise onside kick that has a shot of working.
Yeah.
And then it changes a game.
That's usually, at least in my mind, that's where I picture most onside kicks working, when you catch them by surprise.
Right.
The Pat McAfee did it, similar to the Jake Bates onside kick near the end of the game, where you just try to kick it straight at the guy in front.
You know why onside kicks used to work a lot?
Why?
The guy would hit the ball, and then you had the front people retreating and saying, oh, shit, I got to get back, and then they come back, and it's too late.
Yeah.
That's why it used to work. Now it's like, we know it's coming. You got no shot.
You're prepped. You're prepared. You got the right personnel out on the field.
Mm-hmm.
You got Mac Hollins, who made an incredible play on that first one. He got up, sort of tipped it to himself, and took it down, inside the 10. I'm with you. I hate the rule. It didn't cost them the game, and I don't mind it. That's how I think.
I think, a dangerous thing is when you're getting manhandled in the trenches. Forget what Josh Allen did.
Yeah.
Even Josh Allen was above average yesterday. Buffalo still would have won that game because the offensive line, I'd never seen them manhandled like that. We didn't even see Penei Sewell busting anybody up.
No.
It was just Buffalo.
The highlight of the offensive line was a Dan Skipper touchdown.
Right. And that was cool.
It was really cool. But it didn't intimidate the Bills. Like, they respond. This is why I see the Bills in a whole new light. I forget the name of the player, the number of the player. On that play, Skipper, who's 6'9", 500 pounds. He's a massive human being. What's he, 360? They could have just let him walk into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
But a linebacker, or it was maybe a safety, he came and he let Skipper know you're not getting into the end zone without paying the toll.
He's probably fighting for a job, so he wanted to let him go, but he said, I'm trying to fight for a job. Let me at least pretend like I want to tackle this big dude.
That's part of it. But, man, Ed Oliver was in the backfield all game long. I think he had 9 pressures. I think they sacked Goff twice, maybe. They sacked Goff. I'll check here. They sacked him once or twice early. They didn't sack him, but they were in his face all game long. Somehow Goff ended up with this incredible stat line, but the offense was never, especially the run game, it was never firing like we're used to.
Right.
That offense was on their heels, I should say.
Because the reason you want the run game to work is it's probably the game is a lower score. Maybe it's in the 30s because you've got possession, and maybe it's like 31-28 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want a game like that. You don't want it in the 40s against Buffalo.
No, they wanted in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted that type of game. And that 14-point lead to start was everything that the Buffalo Bills needed to just continue playing, continue their game plan as it is. It's going to be a shootout. Detroit's going to score 42 points. We'll score 48.
Okay.
It's a good team.
So now I want to hear about why the season is done.
It's not. This season is, you could say it's just beginning. There's 3 games left, 2 division games, and 1 against a team trending as far the wrong direction as you could in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Here's what you do. You win these 3 remaining regular season games against opponents that are vulnerable. You get that bye week. You try to heal up a little bit more. Maybe you get some more guys back, and then you start week 2 of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I look at it. I think the Lions are still Super Bowl contenders. I still say they'll go to the Super Bowl. You don't have to play Josh Allen in the NFC Championship game.
That's the key.
You don't have to play Patrick Mahomes in the first month of the playoffs.
Yeah.
To me, those are the, and I was hearing, the Lions, they can't handle elite quarterbacks. Well, who can?
They're elite for
That's
a reason.
why they're elite. But how many elite quarterbacks are there in the National Football League?
They're not many. There's an elite tier.
I say there's 2.
Mahomes and Allen.
Yes. And I'm not including Lamar Jackson because he's got to prove to me that he can perform in the playoffs.
I'm with you on that. I'm going to separate Mahomes and Allen too. I think Lamar is the type of elite. Shoot, how am I going to say this? He is a quarterback that can win you a game himself. He still has to prove that he can win in the playoffs.
How about this? He's October elite.
I can get down with that.
Maybe November elite.
I can get down with that. I don't fear Jalen Hurts. I don't fear, as amazing as he is, I don't fear Joe Burrow right now. It comes down to Allen Mahomes. And right now, Mahomes is Mahomes. Right now, Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL.
Right. And we talk about having to have a complete team. Joe Burrow doesn't have a defense.
No.
And I don't think.
It's awful.
I don't think Philadelphia will beat the Lions at Ford Field when the Lions are still a cohesive team.
Mm-hmm.
In Philadelphia, for the second year in a row, we see problems in the locker room. This is nothing new.
No.
So there is a virus in that locker room that shows up late in the season.
You don't think their win over the Steelers yesterday sort of helped calm down those skeptics?
I'm sure it did, but a lot of stuff was cosmetic. There's still something going on in that locker room. I don't know if one win changes all of that, but there's something wrong in the brew.
They have a complete roster. Their roster is very good. They're a very good team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fear them. I think the Lions roster is complete too. Even with the injuries, they play well across the board. Really the worry comes down to a quarterback like Allen doing what he did.
Right.
But we found out yesterday too, to beat the Lions, you have to have an MVP type performance.
Mm-hmm.
It was only 48-42, and it was an ass kicking. We think the Bills, it really wasn't as close as the final score looks, but again, it took Josh Allen being Superman for them to win the game, to beat the number 1 team in the NFL, a team that we thought, again, was peerless.
Right.
Like, losing, and I think fans need to hear this too, Lions as well, like, losing is hard, but so is eating soup without hands. It happens. It's how you respond to it.
How do you eat soup with no hands? Would you just put your face in the soup?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's messy. It takes work. It's not just a spoon that's steaming hot.
No, you have to eat it like a dog.
Yeah, little chicken. Well, exactly.
No
exactly.
Thanks. You know what? If I tried that, my grandmother would slap the tire out of me. So,
Hey.
boy, you better use. I don't care if you don't have any arms. You better use that spoon.
At the table, they weren't. Arms or not, you weren't allowed to play with your food at the dinner table.
No.
You said it was auntie or your mom?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother.
Yeah, I used to get this. Bam, right across the hands.
Terry. Young Terry. What would she say to you?
Yeah, we don't do that here.
No.
I mean, you can go running, ripping up to somebody else's house and do it, but you're not doing it in this house.
No. You get CPS called on you or something if you talk to your child bad. Nor not a belt to the ass. BTA.
See, I got
wooden
the
spoon.
switch. I got the switch.
You got the switch?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Switch is a small tree branch.
Yeah.
I used to get whipped with the switch. And the thing is, it would bend. And so then my grandmother say, go pick out a switch. And of course I pick out the smallest thing. And she said, boy, you better come up with a real switch or else I'm going to get the tree branch and hit you with it.
You don't want her to pick.
Right.
You
So
don't
then
want her
I
to
would
pick.
get the switch that I knew was going to hurt.
My dad,
But I didn't want the tree branch.
my dad talks about that too. Like he would have to, he's like, go pick out your own switch, and it's just like pain.
And you know me, I pick out a leaf. And she said, boy, you better take that thing back.
Sorry, Grandmama. Terry, if I told you St. Brown had 14 receptions, 193 yards receiving, and a touchdown, would you say he had a good game?
I'd say bravo.
Did he have a good game?
No, because he did things that St. Brown doesn't do.
Never seen it.
He dropped passes
Never seen it.
and he fumbled.
Outrageous.
Yesterday, not yesterday, but the week before, we had talked about how the Lions don't fumble the football. If they turn the ball over, it's a Jared Goff interception. Yesterday, St. Brown, who I think is the most reliable guy, I mean, we've seen 2 fumbles the last month, Montgomery and St. Brown, and it's just shocking.
Yeah. And this one was gut-wrenching. It totally turned the game. You finally have some momentum. The drop and the fumble. Before the half, you're looking to get down there, and you somehow get the ball back with the opportunity to make it. Was it a one-possession game going into the locker room?
Yep.
You hand it back over to them. They score coming out of the locker room easy. And it's like, oh, we're back into this. We're back into the shootout. So I'm with you. Like, man, those stats are incredible. But what we need out of St. Brown, and I'm not mad at it, like, you're allowed a bad game at some point in your career. But we got to hold him accountable. Those were big plays. Those were game-changing plays.
Right. And once again, you're chasing a great team, and the dynamics of the game are different. I mean, if the let's look at the first 2 possessions of the game. If you're able to score a touchdown and then limit Buffalo to a touchdown, then you don't have to go back and pass every time. You don't have to take chances all the time. You can run the football. But the problem was the Lions couldn't run the football, so you may not have been able to do that. So maybe I'm saying the Lions would have lost anyway, no matter what.
Maybe.
But you had a shot if you're not down 14-0.
Yeah.
Because the way you play the game changes.
So we're saying Goff had these incredible statistics, but the statistic you don't want to see is 59 attempts, 59 passes, because it means everything great you just talked about, you can't do it.
There's going to be a bunch of sacks. There's going to be a bunch of holding penalties. There's going to be a bunch of negative plays that put you behind the chains. So that's why you don't want to pass 59 times or 54 times.
He was sacked 3 times for 21 yards. He did, to pull out one bit of positivity from it, he evaded some tacklers in the pocket last night, yesterday. It was pretty impressive, his pocket mobility. Of course, it didn't lead to a dub. But, man, the Bills started touchdown. And here, I completely forgot to mention it. The Lions got an opportunity with that missed 24-yard field goal after the horrible Khalil Dorsey injury. Another broken leg, broken ankle. You had a chance, missed field goal. All right, muster up some kind of energy, like Michigan did after Blake Corum went out a couple years ago, or how they played well after Hutch went out. But then you go down and Jake Bates missed a field goal also.
Right.
And it's like, all right.
That thing wasn't even close.
It's one of those games. No, he yanked it.
Maybe
Get it out of your
he
system.
needed to be about 7-8 yards longer.
He may be. He yanked it. We haven't seen that out of him. I don't mind him missing a field goal before the playoffs. Get it out of your system, Pastor. They open up the second half after the Bills score with a punt. Then there's that fumble in the second half. I got you. But, man, touchdown to finish for the Lions. They were 5 of 5 in the red zone, but it wasn't enough. The Bills were 5 of 7 and in control the entire game. The deceptives didn't matter. They worked. The QB passed back to Jared Goff. hit St. Brown deep, the hook and ladder late in the game. Again, that touchdown catch from Skipper. Fun plays, maybe useful at the time.
Yeah, but
Didn't
when
matter.
you're down 10, 14, 17 points, they're fun plays, but it's like, who cares?
Yeah. It wasn't a momentum. The success of the Deceptives weren't momentum grabbing. They were just another plays you had to do to move the ball.
If the Lions were up 7 and executed those plays, Ford Field would have been electric. It would have they probably would have tore the building down. But because of the situation the Lions were in, it was like, okay, great play, but you got to show me something else.
You got to show me something else. That Ford Field crowd, it's a good point that we didn't bring up on the onside kick. There is an element of that. When that doesn't work, it took the crowd out of the game. So that is a factor in it. Of course, if you get it, they explode, but they died after that moment. After Matt Collins ran it down, the people were confused. They had kind of the air taken out of their sail.
Mm-hmm. You know, Buffalo Mafia,
Yeah.
the Bills Mafia wanted to take over Ford Field. I don't know if they were able to do that,
I don't think so.
but they did take over the Buffalo Wild Wings in downtown.
Really?
Yeah, it was a whole bunch of Bills fans there. And I talked to some of them, and what they had said is they meant to go to the game, but like tickets were like $800.
It's outrageous.
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
But I heard they went down to 300 at some point, but it was too late for these people.
Too late. I gotta appreciate. I like Buffalo Bills fans. Like,
They're cute.
yeah, they're respectable.
Oh, one of them looked like the Geico caveman.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were at the Buffalo Wild Wings. You schmoozing it up with the Bills?
Schmoozing, but yeah.
Just hearing
Trying
what
to
they had
make
to
them
say.
feel comfortable.
What do they say about the line? Like, was this before the game or during the game?
Both.
Both. How did they take this game? What was their emotion and energy like?
They were crazy.
Really?
Yeah, because they love their team, and they think they're going to the Super Bowl, too. And this was a game that they need. They needed this game because they still think they're going to catch Kansas City, which I don't see.
Do we know yet? Is Mahomes injured? Is he, like, seriously injured?
I don't know.
Anybody in the chat, let me know. He got twisted kind of funky late in the game.
He did. That was, his torso went one way and his legs went the other.
Yeah. You don't like to see that. Mm-mm. Like, I hope it doesn't mean a knee or something, but they put Carson Wentz in, and they just got through the rest of that game.
You know, you remind that play with Mahomes. You know what it reminded me of when the magician puts somebody in the box and slices it, and then they move the different pieces of the body around. Supposedly, that's what the Mahomes hit reminded me of.
Just sliced in half.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that. Remember the J-Mo catch against the Texans a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, that wasn't as severe as the Mahomes, but that was pretty bad too.
No. You never want to see a play like that go down. But if the Bills, they're 12-3. No, they're 11-3. The Chiefs won, so they're 13-1. They're still playing for that first place. You're right.
I don't see it though.
Do you think the Lions they will finish with the number 1 seed in the NFC?
I do. You got 2 road games. Road games are always tough, but they're winnable. San Francisco and Chicago. And then it could be winner take all against Minnesota.
Yeah.
I don't think Minnesota's coming into Ford Field and winning.
No.
I don't know why. I know they have the real good record, but they're hanging on by a hair. They're winning a bunch of close games, and they're probably lucky to win some of these games. I just don't think they're good enough to come here and win.
Their record's a bit deceptive. Well, like they're not a team to look past. They're not a team to just think is trash. But when you talk about, wins against the Giants, it was 49ers at home, Texans with C.J. Stroud's worst game ever, Jets lost to the Rams. They beat the Colts. They beat the Jaguars, the Titans, the Bears, the Cardinals. Like, their wins are a bit deceptive. Their record's a bit deceptive. And Jared Goff and the offense has had their way with Brian Flores in that defense. So you just don't want it to come down to Week 18.
No, you don't. But here's why the Lions are not going to the Super Bowl. My wife Abs has given me permission to go to New Orleans if they go.
Oh, no.
So that's the kiss of death right there.
No. That's the ultimate bad luck for the Lions.
Yep.
Now, they can't have you there with a team in the Super Bowl. That New Orleans, I don't think they can handle that.
No, they can. We'd have a blast.
Have you been to NOLA?
Yeah.
What's Terry Foster on Bourbon Street like?
I tell you what. Remember when Michigan basketball lost to North Carolina?
Yeah.
I was at that game.
Okay.
And afterwards, we went, and this is when Chris Webber called the timeout. So afterwards, we went out, hanging out on Bourbon Street. And before then, we were having hurricanes, because that's the drink you're supposed to have. And
Right.
this guy from New Orleans said, "Oh, y'all don't want hurricanes. You need to get the hand grenade."
What's
So
that?
we started ordering hand grenades.
Oh,
And hand
boy.
grenades is this drink. They put way more liquor in it than the hurricanes. They actually put a little plastic hand grenade in it.
Really?
And your head explodes. So we had a few of those. And so we were having a good time singing and acting a fool. And then there was like a little quiet. And I said, dudes, I hear birds singing. How can we hear birds singing? 'Cause it was still dark. So we look at our watch, it's 6 a.m. I'm like, holy cow, I've
Sun was
never done
coming
that
up.
before. Huh?
Sun was coming up.
Sun was coming up. It was still dark.
Well, you were
And
just
the birds were tweaking.
You were just hanging out in establishments with no windows. Weren't you?
No, they had windows.
They had a window. Okay.
Oh, no,
okay.
some of them did not have windows.
Okay, I figured. I figured.
The
And
city's
then
just
I
below.
ended up walking too far down Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
And then I was in the gay section. There was no women. I said, where'd the women go?
He's like, where am I?
Yeah, I'm like, first I'm, singing and having beads thrown at me, and you're looking up, and there's a whole bunch of titties and breasts and everything. And then you keep going, and then there's no women. There's a bunch of dudes. I said, what happened? I said, well, Bourbon Street changes when you go down too far.
It's a little it transitioned the farther down.
But
you
I
go.
had a good time.
I imagine. Michael Lucci's in the chat says grenades are disgusting, are terrible.
They're terrible, but man, they get you going though.
313 Thug Boss says, reality is reality. Your feelings mean nothing. The Lion season is done. We will win it once Hooker takes the reins.
That's not serious. You know what? You know what that is? That's
What?
a troll.
It's got to be. You can't call yourself a 313 Thug Boss and jump off the bandwagon that fast. Ain't going to happen. Detroit grit. We needed to take a loss and not in the NFC before the playoffs, so we don't think we are unstoppable. Mike Bell echoed stuff you've been saying all show, Terry. Buffalo defensive line bullied the Lions offensive line for the first time this season. Our guys are tired. I agree. They shouldn't have been tired. They had 10 days to rest, but everything else about that, they got bullied for the first time.
They went through a rough stretch, with 3 games in 18 days, but they got through it. But I think what happened here is we saw an elite team with a little bit of an attitude. Now, if they play Buffalo again, even though it would be in the Super Bowl, they may not be as jacked up as they were yesterday. Because the Super Bowl is an entirely different animal.
Oh, yeah.
You play for 5 or 6 minutes and you sit down and twiddle your thumbs for like 5 or 6 minutes. It's an entirely different game. Just because we saw Buffalo clown the Lions yesterday doesn't mean the same thing would happen in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's an entirely different game.
Yeah.
And the way that it's played is different too.
Yeah.
There's too much downtime.
This would be a great Super Bowl if we got a rematch. This was a good measuring stick. It was a good moment for the Lions to realize, all right, we are not invincible. They could still be the best team in the NFL. They're going to have to get past some more injuries. We still got to think Super Bowl or bust for this Lions
But
team.
you know what? Year in and year out, the best team, whoever the best team in the NFL is, they usually lose 3 or 4 games.
Yeah. We still might only lose 2. We can still finish the season 15-2.
That's true.
Ed O'Neill in the chat says, I don't know if we can win needing our O to be perfect. You can win a lot of games with this offense being perfect. You got to get something from your defense. You have to.
You have to get something from your defense, and you got to get something again from your running game. Now, you we're going to bring up something, and that now you pussied out on me, and now you don't want to bring it up.
I didn't. We got 2 minutes to do it. Sam Flannel's probably lurking. Conspiracy theory or coincidence? The last 2 games, the Lions' run game has been shut down.
Right.
These last 2 games were after Jahmyr Gibbs posted his TikTok with all the Lions plays on the whiteboard behind him. Coincidence? Something or nothing?
I think that could be a factor.
Think
because
so?
Offensive coordinators could probably pick up a little something that we don't see in there. Some cadence thing or something, and maybe maybe they found something.
Something. It could be something.
Even though the Lions was, I don't know, nothing happened, blah, 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 blah. It's coincidences.
Something's different.
Yeah.
Something's different. Well, Terry, the Lions are now 12-2, still in first place in the NFC North, first place in the NFC. We got the Bears coming up next week at Chicago, at the Windy City, 1 o'clock Sunday, December 22nd.
Probably going to be cold.
It's definitely going to be cold. It's definitely going to be windy. And the Bears
blow.
what?
They call it the Windy City. I don't know if you know that.
They sure do. It's because the Bears blow.
Yeah. That's true. I don't like Chicago in December and January and February.
It's windy and it's cold. It's the water coming off the lakes.
Yeah, it cuts you in two.
Yeah.
The wind's the worst part of winter. Like, the cold's not bad, it's the wind. And then so you go to the city where
you know what else sucks in the winter? Minneapolis. That is the coldest damn city. And Milwaukee's no picnic either. And I know it gets cold here, but one time we were walking from a Pistons game to our hotel, and you have to walk across the river. It was frozen solid. And I was so cold, I just wanted to end it there. I was going to jump into the river and kill myself. so I wouldn't have to be cold anymore.
Poor brother style.
But thank goodness I made it to the hotel, got some heat, got a couple of beers in me, and I was good.
See, there's always another option.
Right.
If you need to talk to somebody.
Right.
There's always another option. Terry, it's a pleasure again. We'll be back.
You too, buddy boy.
8 a.m. on Sunday. Stay tuned. In about 6 minutes, Wake Up Woodward starts with Flannel, Kool-Aid, Chase, Justin, KG, who I just dominated. I am dominating in fantasy football. So, I hope you guys have a wonderful...
bragging?
What?
Who's bragging?
No, yeah, not me. Not me. I mean, he was the number 1 seed, apparently. Have yourself a wonderful Monday. We'll see you on Sunday. This was Woodward and Maine. Go Lions.
Bye. All right.
I got to go unmute the mics in 1 second. Are we good?
I just ended the stream, yeah.